Sir Topham Hatt's railway wasn't in the best shape. A storm had hit, and everything got damaged. It caused a lot of trouble on the island, and trains were running late. Sometimes connections wouldn't be available, and certain deliveries couldn't have been brought. Sir Topham Hatt had a word with the engines, but James was acting cocky. "I'm the most useful engine of them all, sir. You can trust me." Gordon sighed, annoyed. "Have you ever been
Useful.
James was astounded. Well, have you? Stop making a scene, James. You're not helping this situation. Both James and Gordon kept quiet, and Sir Topham had to explain. And once he finished, Gordon felt quite proud of what job he had. "Take that, little James. I am an important engine, and I get the important jobs. You will just have to be shunting today." And Gordon chuffed happily away. That day, Gordon had to help some workmen before he took the express. Gordon didn't like the work, but he wasn't going to complain. "I guess helping out the railway is quite important after all." Then, Birdsey the bus came in a rush. Gordon, there's been an accident with Bogo. He ran into a tree, and now he's blocking the line." Gordon, knowing how impactful that could be to him and the others, knew what he had to do. He got uncoupled and ran away to help Poco. The rain had just started to pour down. Gordon couldn't see well, and that definitely showed. And it happened. Gordon was in a mess. "Well," said Harvey, trying to see the good in the situation, "just be glad I'm not Henry. If Henry was there, you probably would have gotten a worse accident than what you are right now, wouldn't you?" Gordon didn't respond. He only said something quite random. "Who's going to take the express now?" Then Thomas came. "I don't know, Gordon, but you'll just have to see." After Thomas had gotten Bogo back on track instead of Gordon, he had to rest. "I wonder who's going to pull the express," Thomas said quietly. Then Thomas heard James coming. "You know, little Thomas, I shall be taking the express while Gordon is gone. Have you been sleeping well, James? Because those are some quite silly dreams." "Very funny, little Thomas, but the fat controller just told me." "What absolute rubbish," Thomas replied. "No one in their right mind would give you the express." "Neither would they give it to you, Thomas." "Now, little Thomas, I have a little train to pull." And James puffed importantly away. "I'll get the rope," said Thomas to himself. Meanwhile, James was going down the line and was having fun. The red engine hadn't pulled the express in a long time, and it felt good to pull it at last. He felt very special and thought he was Gordon for a second. Then James passed Molly. She had soot all over her. "You need some better paint, darling. Right now you look awful." Ha ha ha. Oh. Then James started to approach the station. James tried to slow down, but the rails were too slippy. James was horrified. "I can't stop. Help!" Up ahead was Toby, taking his time. "Watch out, Toby!" Toby shut his eyes. That brown powder, it really smells. Luckily, the coaches were still intact, but no one could move. Then there was a sudden noise. It was Thomas once again. Well, James, I wish I knew how you got yourself in this. But I could have an idea with that chicken coop over there. I recall a specific engine telling me I wasn't that useful. I guess I won't helping them. Please help, cried James. The passengers in the coaches laughed as Thomas got closer to James to put him back on the rails. Later, Thomas took James to the works, and they had a mighty surprise. Have fun, chuckled Thomas. James looked and sighed. Oh, the dignity, cried Golden. A storm had struck on Sodor, and it damaged the whole railway and island. There was an engine needed to clear all of the mess. Emily had been chosen to help other engines down the line, and troubles that needed to be solved. Thank you for helping me, Emily. It's very generous. No problem, Dennis. Now, let's get those side loads off, shall we? Meanwhile, Elizabeth was having a fun time, delivering her loads to the place needed. Then, Elizabeth had to stop and had a little chat with Emily. Oh, hello there. What's your name, dear? My name's Emily. What about you? Mine's Elizabeth. Nice to meet you. What are you doing? I'm doing some track maintenance with Fergus. Track maintenance, you said? Absolutely. Such a simple and monotonous job, Elizabeth scoffed. What are you trying to say? Emily catched on. Well, I always thought that those kinds of jobs were only for engines who didn't know how to work properly. Emily was hurt. It's time for you to move, Elizabeth. Do it right. And Elizabeth chuffed away. Thank you for saying something, Fergus. What? I didn't listen to your conversation. And Fergus chuffed to work. Later that week, Harold the helicopter was going up in the sky and then saw a traffic accident and warned Elizabeth. Are we soon ready to leave? Said Elizabeth mournfully. Oh, you'll have to wait a little bit. Trevor is still pulling the lorry, I assume, and it might take more time. Oh, I assume he forgot. This is taking such a long time. Jim Cole owns 2 old vehicles, but he can't tell me he pulled the lorry out of the way. He doesn't think I'm important. Well, I'll show him. And Elizabeth ran off. I really don't think you should, said Molly, quite nervous. But unfortunately, Elizabeth was already gone. Suddenly, Elizabeth felt like she was slowing down. What is going on? She complained. Then Elizabeth saw George up ahead. What are you doing? He shouted. What am I doing? You're shouting at me. I'm rolling up the roads. There's wet cement and I need flattening. Elizabeth was horrified as she started to sing. Help! Elizabeth cried. George started to chuckle when they then heard a whistle from far away. And then a chuffing noise started to get closer and closer. And then came Emily. Catch the rope, Emily said. The rope flew in the sky, and Elizabeth's driver caught it. and he attached the rope to Elizabeth. She coupled herself to the truck and said, "Ready, get set, pull!" And Emily then started to pull. "Come on, Emily, you can do it!" The cement started to dry off, but Elizabeth was being pulled quite hard. And then, at last, she was out. Elizabeth's tires were covered with cement and couldn't move, but she could care less. "You should have let her stay in that. She would have then learned a lesson." "Luckily, I have learned my lesson. Emily, I'm sorry. You're a strong and nice engine. An engine like you could be very useful and could do anything you want with hope and determination." Emily was decently pleased. "But, my dear, I would have a word of request. I think you should tell off an engine when they are doing something wrong. Like Thomas, for example. He's a very naughty engine. Haha." "Oh, yes, I already have started doing things like that. But now I know I shouldn't be afraid of doing it more. And the two gals laughed, as if they were good old friends. All the engines were busy on the island of Sodor. The big engines were working hard. But Bertram was also very busy. An extension to Bertram's line was decided, so Bertram had to work very hard, pulling passengers and trucks. At one point, it was quite clear he needed help. "This is a lot of work," he mumbled. But luckily, help was found. One day, Thomas chuffed peacefully to Fafaqua station with Annie and Clarabelle. Then, Thomas looked over, and he saw the fat controller standing on the platform. Thomas wondered what was wrong. Then, the fat controller came beside Thomas and explained, "Since Bertram's part of the line needs to be extended, Skarloey will need to be brought and help him build it. But since Skarloey isn't near Bertram, I need you to transport Skarloey through the railway to here." Thomas was very excited. It had been a long time since he saw the little engines. "Oh boy," said Thomas as the guard blew his whistle. "This is going to be fun." And after the passenger run, Thomas went to Croven's gate. Soon, Thomas came to the Skarloey sheds. "It's time to get up, Skarloey. We have a journey to go on." "Are you sure it's me?" said Skarloey. "Absolutely," replied Thomas. Well, okay then." Soon enough, Harvey came. He loaded Skarloey on the flatbed, and Thomas and him were ready for their small but enjoyable adventure. Thomas was going quickly down the line. "I don't think this is safe," said Skarloey nervously. Come on," replied Thomas. "Have a bit of fun in your life. You never see this place. Now let's go." And Thomas dashed by James. "What was that?" James exclaimed. "See, we're having fun," Thomas said, but the two didn't realize that the chains started to get weaker and weaker. Down the line, it was Fergus's turn to do the maintenance work. He was fixing some bumpy rails where there was a sign that said to slow down, when Thomas raced beside Fergus. "Slow down!" Yeah, do it right and go at normal speeds. We know it, Fergus." "Thomas, there's some bumpy rails over there." Thomas gasped and slammed on the brakes, and then it happened as the chain snapped off. Fergus just rolled his eyes. Skarloey was now attached to nothing, so Thomas made sure that the rest of the journey was safe and slow. Soon they reached Bertram's line.
Thank goodness you're here.
Yes, said Thomas, arriving at destination safely, he joked. Yes, and luckily no one was hurt. Both Thomas and Skarloey laughed, while Bertram just eyed them. So Skarloey was quick at work and did it nicely. While he was there, he even had a fun conversation with Thumper about the boulder. Skarloey enjoyed doing his temporary work more than he thought. But who would help Bertram when Skarloey would leave? That is a story for another day. Toby and Mavis had it hard for quite a while. The work was overloaded and they would never stop for a break. Meanwhile, Harry and Bert were very naughty. They had attempted to scrap many engines who went to the scrap yards, and that made the Fat Controller quite annoyed. And so that they could be useful, he sent them to the quarry. But of course, Harry and Bert didn't enjoy being there. One day, Percy took some trucks to the quarry. As Percy put the trucks in the siding, he came up to Harry and Bert and whistled.
That's your whistle,
Cluttered Bert.
Listen to this,
Harry continued. Percy was shocked.
Oh yes, that whistle of yours would make good scrap.
My whistle is as good as yours, snapped Percy. Just you wait and see. Later in Percy's day, he practiced whistling loudly. He did it louder, and then perfectly. That's how I'll scare those stupid twins, ha ha ha. The next day, Percy slunk up behind Harry and Bert quite silently, and as he stopped behind them, he then whistled loudly. Harry and Bert were quite surprised. They had never
Who's
been
the
scared
silly
before.
one now? Horde of guys.
Harry and Bert, on the other hand, didn't find it funny.
Very fine scrap,
they muttered. The day had finally come, and it was now time for Harry and Bert to go. But they had some unfinished business to do. One day, Percy was resting peacefully when Bert suddenly came up to him.
Oh my God.
What you doing, huh?
Nothing much.
We're just bringing you home, little green guy.
And you'll have such a good rest that it will last forever.
Then Percy shot open his eyes, realizing what was happening. Help! 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 He's taking me to the smelter's yard! Then Percy's whistle chain got stuck.
No more whistles now, little steamy.
But it was good that Percy could alert Mavis before the whistle chain got stuck. Hello, was that Percy? And luckily enough, Mavis could see Percy just before he turned around the corner. I'm coming, Percy, she yelled. The engines were passing all of Thomas's branch line. Going as fast as they can, they passed Terrence's field, Mrs. Kindly, and other wonderful places.
The two were getting tired, but they didn't care. They had to do what they had to do.
Soon, Bert brought Percy to the smelter's yard.
Get ready for the scrapping, green bugger.
The fat controller would never let me scrap.
Sure you won't. The fat controller isn't in control of the scrapyard, you silly bugger. Now come on, you bush with green stripes. It's time for your execution.
Then, to everyone's surprise,
Mavis showed up. Mavis, help me! But Mavis didn't need to do anything, as the manager of the ironworks got out of his office.
I'm tired of you two. Go to your sheds. I'll talk to you later. Percy and Mavis, you can leave and go to your branch lines.
The two Farquhar engines beamed with joy as Bert was being uncoupled from Percy. The Ironworks twins were both scolded, so was their driver. They were fired, and until the next year came, Harry and Bert had to stay in their shed. And for Mavis, well, she had a well-deserved rest, while Percy did all the work and learned to never mess with Harry and Bert. One day, Percy arrived at the quarry quite tired. You have been late too many times, Percy. I am sorry to say that I will talk to the Fat Controller what to do with you.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir.
Percy mumbled dreadfully. That evening, he arrived at the sheds. It was quite peaceful and quiet. He was happy that the day was finally over, until he then heard a noise. It was the Topham Hatt, and he was talking to Percy's driver. Percy has been late too often this week. Percy must go to the scrapyards tomorrow. Harry and Bert are expecting some scrap.
Sir Topham wants to scrap me.
Was I late that many times? I'm a good engine, I'm a good engine, I'm a good engine. This has to be a nightmare, 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 nightmare. And Percy went to sleep horribly. The next morning, the sun shone and the birds sang, but Percy was too afraid to notice. Sir Topham Hatt wants to scrap me. I've been causing too much trouble on this railway. The Fat Controller will never scrap an engine he named. And the first one at that. Now ye should stop worrying and go to work, Percy. Work! I forgot. And Percy raced out of his berth. What a strange engine you are, Percy. What's got in with you? But Douglas didn't have an answer, as Percy left already. So Percy started with the first job of the day. Hope you're not gonna take that train like that, Percy. I've got no time to go to the turntable. I have to go now. And so, Percy took the train backwards. You can't just push a train. What kind of an engine is that? But Percy already left. Down the line, Gordon was waiting for the passengers to get in. So, up ahead, the signal was red to alert engines that he was there. As Percy came up, the couplings of the truck snapped, and they were in a runaway. Percy looked in horror as the trucks flew away. Gordon looked towards them as the trucks were on his line. Grumbled Gordon. I'm not going to open my eyes until this oil is out of my face. Percy felt awful for what he did. Oh no, the Fat Controller will scrap me for sure. I need to run. And he did. Later, help came. And the Fat Controller was there as well. Sir, it was Percy. He was pulling this train. Percy? But why would he hide from his accident? That doesn't make sense. He never does that. Douglas chimed in. You think I knew why, sir? You do? I didn't know you knew Percy like that. Well, do you also know where he's hiding?
Well, I have an idea.
Right then bring me to Percy immediately. Donald, do his jobs while he's gone.
And so, Douglas chuffed away with the fat controller. Hey! I have to do all the work. But he did nothing wrong. While Douglas raced down the line, soon they did arrive at Tinmouth Sheds, and Percy looked quite afraid. Please don't scrap me, sir. I didn't mean to be late or cause trouble. Douglas decided to speak instead of Sir Topham. Oh, Percy, your job was to go to the scrap yards. Your job was never to actually be scrapped. You really mean it? Yes, Percy. Oh, joy! I thought I was gonna get scrapped. Such a misunderstanding. Yes, Percy. Now let's go to work and... Wait, Donny!
Are you happy to be here?
No. So Percy pulled his trains and never late. He did his job perfect. And Percy knew 100% that the Fat Controller would never ever want to scrap him. On the island of Sodor, the engines were enjoying themselves. James was pulling goods trains, which gave the other engines a break from James's boasting. Thomas had received a medal for helping some soccer players. And old Slowcoach was back to being a coach again and working with Duck. One day, Oliver was proud of pulling a brass band.
You know, Doc, there's a reason why Sir Topham Hatt chose me to pull the train. Us brave engines need a reward sometimes. Like this, it is most deserving.
Of course, Oliver, but I'm happy to be who I am, and unlike you, I don't boast.
I don't boast that much, Duck. You're just exaggerating.
Well, Oliver, I'll be on my way now. I can't be late after all.
He's right. I can't be late. Are we almost done over there?
We're missing the tuba player. He's not here.
Well, we'll just have to deal without him. Just like Duck said, we can't be too late.
And then Oliver left right as Thomas came in with the tuba player. Why do I have to be reminded of that? Goodness gracious, Thomas muttered. Meanwhile, Oliver was going down the line and enjoying himself. He thought he was doing the right thing by being on time and leaving the tuba player behind. Soon enough, Oliver finally arrived at the station. As the musicians got out, one of them shouted, "You left the tuba player behind!" Oliver shuddered.
Yeah, you do needed him.
Oh. Then Bertie screeched into the station.
You're lucky I was there to bring the tuba player here.
And Bertie screeched away. When the brass band got on stage, they started to play their instruments. The band played wonderfully as the musical instruments were going along. The swing of it all was a piece to the ear, and the people enjoyed it quite a lot. As the musicians were playing, Oliver felt shy. He wanted to say sorry and help, but he didn't know how. And then he had an idea.
I hope they don't mind if I do this. and he started to whistle as the music was going on. This caught the musicians and people off guard, but they didn't mind. In fact, it helped the performance. As Oliver was whistling to the beat, he then saw that the tuba player winked. Oliver grinned, and he continued whistling to the instruments. Those other engines listened to the music and had a blast. Thomas once saw Terence the tractor plowing in a field one day, and he said, "My, oh my, you do look funny. Where are your wheels, are your wheels, are your wheels? However do you move along? You really do look funny." "Don't be so rude," said Terence the tractor. "I don't have wheels like you because my caterpillar tracks are so much better. And I could go anywhere, anywhere, anywhere. I don't have rails like you. One day I will prove it, show you how I do it. Then you will understand. Don't judge a book by its cover. Don't make your mind up too soon. Things aren't necessarily always what they appear to be. Don't judge a book by its cover. Don't make your mind up too soon. Never, 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 never judge a book by its cover." Sure enough, on a winter's day when the snow lay deep and hard, Thomas got stuck, he was in trouble. And who do you think came along and rescued them that day? The snow didn't matter to Terence the tractor. Now Thomas understands. So don't judge a book by its cover. Don't make your mind up too soon. Things aren't necessarily always what they appear to be. So don't judge a book by its cover. Don't make your mind up too soon. Never, 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 never judge a book by its cover. So don't judge a book by its cover. Don't make your mind up too soon. Things aren't necessarily always what they appear to be. So don't judge a book by its cover. Just remember the rule. Never, 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 never judge a book by its cover.